So here is a slightly different one today. Let's look at one of the world's deadliest crossings. And my main point would be, why don't they build a bridge? Yeah. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. Let's go.
I recently became aware of a water crossing in Australia that I have never heard of before, called Cahills Crossing in...
Straight away, they've zoomed in. That cannot be the crossing. Surely that cannot be the crossing. Where is the crossing there?
the Northern Territory. Cahills Crossing is a flooded causeway in the north of Australia and is notorious for vehicles getting washed off the road, especially during the wet season, and is considered as Australia's most dangerous water crossing. Cars being washed off a road into fast-moving floodwaters sounds bad enough, but that alone is not what makes this crossing so dangerous. It's all of the saltwater crocodiles that surround the road, laying in wait right at the water's edge. This stretch of river is an infamous feeding ground for saltwater crocodiles and one of the most dangerous bodies of water in the country. Rangers found there were 120 crocs in the 6-kilometre stretch of river leading up to the crossing. Now you might think, who cares about crocs in the water when I will be safely in my car crossing on land?
Now, I'm sure at times there's points when there is, you can see the causeway, it's fine, you can see the road. But by this, clearly there's big cars that are in the river. Plus the fact that they've got the deepest point marker as well in the height. One, would you cross it? Well, you clearly would, because there is a vehicle right there that is a small hatchback type car. But I don't think I'd want to do it if I wasn't in what you guys call an ute, or a pickup truck or a van. They've obviously made the road there. They've concreted it up, and they've clearly put the rocks on one side just to slow down the speed of the river. But just build a bridge, and then you don't have to worry about going through the water.
Well, you might think differently when crocodiles are taking a nap on the crossing and blocking your path. The river that Cahills Crossing spans can go from a tame muddy stream into a deep torrent, ready to sweep away any vehicle that dares to cross it. The river has massive tidal influences that
I was wrong actually, because I thought the rocks were placed on the side upstream of the river just to try and slow it down, and they're not, because the van has gone into the rocks.
Don't generally line up with people's travel plans, forcing them to become impatient and choose risky times to cross the river. And this is the main reason people in their vehicles get stuck and get into trouble. Each year, dozens of drivers attempt to make it across the submerged crossing, but instead end up being washed away into the croc-infested waters.
But this is the problem. Roads like this, and I'm sure you've got these sort of roads, these sort of crossings all around the world. The impatience is what gets you, because you've got to wait for the river to be low enough. If you've got to be places, can you wait maybe hours? That's the situation, isn't it? And if there's no other crossing for miles and miles, the impatience gets you.
Considering how remote this location is, it seems to get a lot of attention from many online videos showing drivers who attempted to cross and failed to make it. So if you get in trouble on the crossing and you have to get out to winch yourself to the other side, you are running the Crocodile Gauntlet. Crocodiles frequently congregate at the river's crossing to feast on swarms of fish that head upstream with changing tides, and up to 40 crocodiles can be spotted together at the same time, a spectacle that attracts big crowds. The area has become so well known, there are even viewing platforms to watch the crocodiles feeding, which in itself is quite bizarre, as this crossing is in a very remote location, a part of Australia where most people will never visit.
I'm going to assume, by that point it's just made, I'm going to assume then that that's why they haven't really made any effort to to make the crossing safer, or make it into a bridge, for example, because they don't think many people even go up there. So is it worth the expense to make a bridge, for example? That is quite a remote part, I think, because I'm pretty sure most people are sort of around around the seas down this end, and a little bit up that end. You know, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, those sort of locations.
There have been many fatal incidents
worth
at
it?
this location due to careless people crossing the waterway on foot or fishing at the river's edge and being attacked by a crocodile. World-leading crocodile expert Graham Webb says that for every crocodile you can see, there are 10 you can't. The rivers in this area of Australia are home to the densest population of saltwater crocodiles. This just isn't the kind of place to be taking risks, as the opportunistic Crocs are most certainly there in numbers, just laying in wait. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
It's crazy, and I said, I'm sure there is places like this all over the world. Africa, for example, would be one I'm thinking of. Mainly because you see these sort of crossings on like Top Gear or the Grand Tour now that Clarkson and that does. You see these crossings all the time, but they're probably in locations or in countries where they just don't have the money that they think is viable to put into this. Because as I said, ideally you would put a bridge over and make it a safe crossing, but maybe it's just not worth the money. Maybe it's not worth the money to build something like that in such a, what they say is a remote location. Would I want to be crossing that? No, not really. Not really. I would probably risk it because I'm impatient. But that is where people are getting in trouble, because they're impatient and can't wait, you know, either don't want to or can't wait for the river to go down a little bit. Yeah, croc infested is certainly the impression that it's given. Would you take the chance? Would you risk making the crossing? Let me know down below. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.